the 4 ally system didn't stop people from having 16 guild alliances. What's this gonna do to stop that? Alright, so this one is 2,000 hours of Throne and Liberty. I quit the game. Farewell. You know, I still don't know why people keep doing this when they quit. If you quit, bro, just quit. But, you know, maybe I guess it's therapeutic for somebody to do this. You know, I can't judge. Alright, first of all, it says, first of all, I'm going to say everything I'm going to say will be about the PvP system. I won't be talking much about PvE side of the game. It's not something I'm particularly interested in, so I don't feel I have the right to speak on it. As someone who has played 2,000 hours of Throne and Liberty, I quit the game last night. I won't go into the reasons why I left. I don't feel the need to explain, and frankly, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does if you're making a thread about it, no? In light of the experience I've gained, I just want to write down a few thoughts. Not to complain, but simply as someone who has played the game for a long time, reached number 1 in kill rank, and played in the top 100 of the arena, maybe by chance one of the developers will come across this and decide to fix a few things. And if that happens, maybe the remaining players will get to enjoy a better game. I won't come back to this or write anything again after this post. Alright. So he has multiple points. Number 1, evasion is not a suitable mechanic for MMO type games. We see this in MOBA games like Dota or League because there are too many heroes, too many skills and items, and everything resets at the end of the match. We don't see these games in League. It's been removed in League in Season 1. But I do agree with his point of evasion is not a suitable mechanic for MMO type games. If you want like actual skill expression, if you want people to be happy about like the fact that they've outplayed somebody, you don't put evasion in your game, because otherwise it's all up to builds at that point, right? I don't think evasion should be a thing. As a matter of fact, I think resistances shouldn't be a thing in a game either. Like for CC resists. Maybe not for like things like burn or poison or something like that, but like hard CC resists essentially, right? But that also means that like your game shouldn't have a plethora of like CC chains either, right? Or at the very least have like a CC cap on somebody so they don't get capped like the whole time. But I agree with evasion and any type of RNG in general in combat. I just don't like. Like I want to be able to see somebody winding up an attack and I know the character animation for it because I've studied it. I've like paid attention to it, and now I can outplay that person. That's how I would want it to be. So it can be balanced, but if you implement this in an MMO game, you cannot achieve true balance, and in fact, it has never been achieved. I'm not sure about like it has never been achieved. I think one example, Ragnarok Online did a very good job of balancing it. I don't like evasion in general in PvP, but Ragnarok did a pretty good job of it, where it's like you're not gonna have, even if let's say it's a pay to win game and people try to wail for it, right? You're still not gonna have like an assassin with high flee, high evasion tank a ton of people, because what they did in that game is that the more people that hit you, the less your total evasion becomes. So like by the time you're getting hit by like 4 people, your evasions are already like all the way down to like 1/10 of what it was. So those people even people with low hit are hitting you. So that's like a really good adaptation that Ragnarok did, and I think it would work in Throne. Make evasion be a PvE thing, or be a 1v1 like build or whatever. Let's see. But the beauty of Throne is basically has it ever been achieved where it's there's a balance? In a way, yeah. Throne would be a really good example of being able to balance around that, because there's a counter to everything. We've known this from the beginning with Throne, right? There's a counter to everything. The problem is that it's very expensive to have multiple sets, and it's time gated. That's the problem with Throne at the moment. If it was way easier to switch between builds, because that's the premise of like build of classes in TNL, then this wouldn't be a problem. Right? Like sure, it would still be builds in Liberty, but it's builds in liberty for everybody, not just for a few, right? Like, if a healer or tank has skills that absorb all incoming damage, they will create a perfectly synchronized party where nobody takes damage. And this leaves no way out for smaller groups of players or those who simply can't gather a full team. That's how it should be, though, right? I know there's that fantasy of you 1v5ing, 1v6ing a whole group, right? But that's how it should be. If somebody has formed an optimal party, which is not all the time, let's say like I'm guessing this is like a nebulous scenario. You're one person or you're two people, and you're facing a party with optimal classes that has a balance of healers, tanks, and DPSs. You shouldn't be able to win that, especially if they have good micros, especially if they have good synergy. Like you shouldn't be able to win that, right? Because then that's more imbalanced. If we're talking about balance, like it would be imbalanced for you as one person or two people to take on six, right? Sure. Like you could say that, like yeah, sure. If there's ways to work around that, especially if you're built hard like against somebody, you could maybe kill one person still, kill one or two people, but you'd still die and you won't be able to wipe them. Um, but you know, but I think it's and this is a whole nother argument where it's like sometimes it's still possible. Like I've gone up against full parties and still come out with a kill, right? Parties with you know with people of the same class as me, like Templars. Um but if I lose and I get blown up, which is like against competent teams, like I always do get blown up before I can even get a kill sometimes, then that's completely okay with me. Like getting completely blasted like that. But I think the problem is sometimes there are people that just complain about this when in fact there was a way for them to kind of like at least go one for one in that scenario, but they're just not good enough. But that's like a whole another can of worms that is a whole debate by itself. Even in this, if this minority consists of highly skilled players with optimized builds and sufficient combat power, they will be doomed to lose. Again, not all the time. Therefore, healer classes should have stronger healing abilities, not invulnerable shield skills. This should not prevent them from being fragile, of course. Wand players should have some defensive traits, but not at the cost of balance. The same applies to tank classes. Their defenses should come from their own class mechanics, e.g. from SNS itself. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It does come from SNS itself. That's why when you hold an SNS, you're just tanky by default, right? If you're not building like full tank as an SNS, somebody who builds like glass cannon can still kill you even as a tank. Like if I were just like to stand there, and get caught off guard by like a crossbow dag, that crossbow dag, which technically I should counter with my defensive skills, like counter barrier, still can kill me. But yeah, SNSs are still strong in general. I think that's just a fact. But probably with the Blood Devo changes and everything, that's far less so. I mean, we saw in the tournament the moment that the patch hit, TTK went all the way down. And Wand is pretty strong as a weapon, I'll say, in terms of like support and offense. The healing was not as good as it was without the bow heals, for sure. And that's why TTK is down, because of the fact that like you can take down hots. By the way, people underestimate the power of hots from bow. Like usually the hots from bow with your healing touch, your flash wave probably ends up healing you way more than like the wand burst heals. As explained in the previous point, once healer and tank classes are adjusted properly, the damage output of DPS classes should be reduced. Yeah, that's true. Because right now, if somebody's not building like pure tank, where like they do damn near like no damage, Like a spear dag or a crossbow dag, a GS dag will still burst them down. Like there are like spear dags that can that can kill me if I don't react fast enough or if I don't pop my defensives. All right. But in a case like that, they could just wait out my defensives, and then as soon as my defensives are down, I'm screwed. Right. And as a Templar, as long as they know the sound effect of Curse Bomb and they see it coming, because like they'll see stacks of curses on them, he can just Q block it. So that negates my whole setup, my whole damage, and boom, it's just gone. And in the meantime, their cooldowns will be much shorter, and they'll be able to kill me. At least to a level where nobody can one shot anyone. Since immortality shields will no longer exist, PvP will become more enjoyable and skill based. I don't think it was ever immortality shields. I think it was just blood devo in general, which was the problem in terms of survival, in terms of like really high TTK. Because you right now you could pop like all your defensives on SNS, and you could still get blown up by somebody who built against SNSs, like shield pierce, you know, high crit, high heavy. You can still get blown up. Your best bet is to Q block. That is until you get hit with a wrath skill, which is a pull, which is from daggers, which is you could also get frozen while you have your defensives up, or even ascending slash will KD you. So your Q block, which is supposed to be quote unquote like OP, which the length of it is pretty OP. You get hit with a cataclysm. Um, then it's just rough. You'll still get KD'd. Area of effect skills should deal less damage, while single target skills should deal more. Because if a weapon can both hit multiple enemies and deal high damage, everyone will end up playing that weapon. As has been the case in the last 4 months, around 70% of DPS players are using spears. I agree with this one. Part of it is also the fact that like before, because of the 222 meta, spear players were able to just build glass cannon and get away with it, essentially. So I do agree with this one in terms of area effect skills should deal less damage, and I think that's why people say that they prefer the flash wave meta. Because yes, it was basically flash wave, flash wave, flash wave, but each flash wave by itself was not really dealing a lot of damage, right? And usually it was classes on like liberators or infiltrators that are usually like easy to kill anyway. But yeah. Tank classes should, of course, be hard to kill and should be able to stun, provide control, and tactically disable their opponents. But currently, SNS is being used as simply as a tool to gain defense too easily. They shouldn't make other players immortal with the shields they provide. I'm guessing when he says shields, he probably means Blood Devo. They themselves should be tanky and fulfill their role of area control. They should not contribute to damage or external defense. Yeah, this one is like 50-50. Like a tank should definitely be able to buff up their party defensively. 100%. Like every game you're always going to see tanks be able to buff up their party defensively. Right? You'll see even in like upcoming games like Ashes of Creation, right? Like you have a tank skill that basically makes it so people like your party members like behind you take less damage. It's just a thing. It's not so much this, but it's more so just Blood Devo. It's not a concept. It's not this concept that's the problem. It's Blood Devo specifically that's the problem. A proper 1v1 arena should be added where the same classes are matched against each other. That is a horrendous idea. Imagine putting 2 Templars together. Imagine putting like 2 Seekers together. Imagine putting like X weapon versus X weapon with a dagger versus each other. And they just, let's say like staff dag, and they just build evasion because they know that there's no shot the other guy can build enough hit to hit them if they full focus evasion. This is a horrible idea. Let's do BGs instead. Or let's do what Chrono's doing with Eden. It should offer satisfying rewards. The kill ranking should reset monthly, and there should be PvP incentivizing rewards to encourage more participation. Yeah, and that's called meaningful PvP. But proper 1v1 arena is not the go-to. You could do this with like BDO, for example, but I wouldn't do it for TNL. Mm, in order to let players who play for long hours catch up with pay-to-win players who progress quickly, the limited farming system should be removed. Players should be integrated into a system where the more you play, the more you can earn in terms of items and resources. I think this is a good idea. I don't think that the time gated resources should be a thing, because if a free to play player, or not even like a free to play player, if a new player wants to come in, the fact that they have to wait an X amount of time to get the necessary resources to upgrade their weapons and get into the end game, not because it's for lack of grinding, but more so because they're time gated. That does make it easier for people to not have, not have like retention within the game. The number of guild allies should be reduced to 2, or if the 4 ally system remains, then the maximum number of guild members should be reduced to 35. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a system problem. This is not a system problem. This is not TNL's fault, by the way. Like in terms of alliances, this is not a TNL problem. This is a player problem. Let's stop blaming the devs for a second, because the 4 ally system didn't stop people from having 16 guild alliances. What's this gonna do to stop that? Before, when I ask people like, hey, how about we split our big alliances, and two top guilds take in 2 up and coming PvP guilds, and then we can split the forces that way so that we can have like good open world PvP. Guess what happened? Nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to do it. This is not a system problem. This is a player problem. The number of castles should be increased to 3, as the game map is more than large enough to support this. This would increase competition, allow more strong guilds to rise, and motivate players to actively work towards the new goals like castle ownership. This one, I can't really speak on this one too much, because then it's just gonna be like 3 different alliances, probably not decking on each other because they're scared to lose castle. Which brings me to this problem again. A good majority of MMORPG players are very insecure. They can't a lot of like quote unquote PvPers can't handle losses. Can you imagine like the amount, like I can't even count the amount of times where a loss has led to somebody crashing out and quitting the game right after because their mental was so fragile. That's the reality of MMORPG players for the most part. A lot of MMORPG players love the idea of PvP. They're not actual PvPers. That's the problem. It's a player problem. So this could work, but there are many more things that could be said. But even if they only implement these changes, the remaining player base will enjoy a much more balanced and fun game environment. Yeah, he did have some good points here, right? But for the most part, some of these are not really all that viable. And again, we love to blame NCSoft. We love to blame AGS. AGS is just a publisher, by the way. People keep forgetting about that. Right? This is not a system problem. This is a player problem. That's just how it is. Until the day comes where everybody loves competition and doesn't mind losing for the sake of competition, this will never work. This will never work. Because there's way more insecure players than there are actual PvPers. I don't mind getting my ass handed to me for 2-3 months straight if it means that like I'm improving gradually over and over and over and over with my stack, who also doesn't mind losing if it means there's improvement. But 90% plus of people are not that type of people. That's just the reality of it. Because like you could have given them any system, and it's either they stick by that system or they come up with a system amongst themselves to make fights fun, right?